Welcome everyone to the Salt Lake Expositor featuring Momo Nomo's channel with Randy and Latter Daily Digest with my channel. Tim has a channel. It's called Mormon, just as a needle in the side to the church. And you can head on there someday, check out the things he has. But
I'm gonna start another channel though.
Yeah.
Yay.
And so, Randy, tell us how you're doing real quickly.
I'm doing fantastic. If I was doing any better, I'd be crying. I'm doing great.
Jessica, how are you doing?
I'm doing great too. We're back on the other side of the planet, back in Texas.
Yeah, I'm in Magna, Utah, in case anybody wants to send condolences. And I'm visiting for I attended the Journal of Mormon Polygamy second annual conference. So a historic conference about history, where they're basically just having more and better history around Mormon polygamy. And I just think anytime you say the words Mormon and polygamy in the same sentence, it's good for the world. That's what I have to say.
Great publicity.
And Tim is joining us as a special guest. Tim's going to present to us in a little bit some very interesting facts about women's service in the church. And so what I'm going to do right now is hopefully I'm going to add to this stage something that we want to share. And this is just to refresh people's memory. And it has to do with a bunch of different things. And we'll get right to it as soon as we hear what he has to say.
Many of you know that I study faith loss and secularization and anti-religious rhetoric. You know that I'm trying to keep my finger on the pulse of people losing their faith around the world and doing whatever I can to try to resuscitate that faith. Well, as I've been studying books about this and reading articles and watching graphs and statistics, some of those statistics are pretty unsettling. To watch the rise of the nuns, as they call it, N-O-N-E-S. No, this is not people flocking to the Catholic convent. Nun as in no religious affiliation. I'm a part of none. And that's been on the rise since about the 1990s. It's peaking in ways that we haven't quite seen before. Well, one of the statistics that has worried me most of late comes from a survey that was done in 2023. And it's suggesting that for the first time that I can think of, more women are leaving religion than men are. That's shocking to me as a historian of religion in America. Because there was actually a great article I read in grad school called Religious History is Women's History. That women have always outnumbered men, not at the pulpit, but in the pew. And so often it's these sister saints organizing benevolent societies. Ours is called the Relief Society, doing incredible things. So much heavy lifting in the kingdom of God is done by God's daughters. I read a book once on the history of secularization in Great Britain in the 20th century. And one of the author's main points was religion seemed to collapse in Great Britain when women stopped coming to church. Men were a mixed bag, sometimes strong, sometimes weak, sometimes coming, sometimes leaving. But women seemed to hold steady, and they held the church up until they stopped doing that. And there wasn't much left to keep it afloat. Sister saints, be aware of just how important you are in the kingdom of God. Each of you daughters of God, each of you elect. Many of you know that I study faith loss and secularization and anti-religious rhetoric. You know that I'm trying to keep my finger on the pulse of people losing their faith around the world and doing whatever I can to try to resuscitate that faith. Well, as I've been studying books about this and reading articles and watching graphs and statistics, some of those statistics are pretty unsettling. to watch the rise of the nuns, as they call it, Nones. No, this is not people flocking to the Catholic convent. None as in no religious affiliation. I'm a part of none. And that's been on the rise since about the 1990s. It's peaking in ways that we haven't quite seen before. Well, one of the statistics that has worried me most of late comes from a survey that was done in 2023. And it's suggesting that for the first time that I can think of, more women are leaving religion than men are.
We've seen this, right?
That's shocking to
it's
me as a
repeating.
historian
It's
of
repetitive. I don't
religion
know
in
why.
America. Because there
It started over again. So more women are heading out. See, that shows that there's the smarter of the two sexes.
I left my family. I was the guide to get them out too.
Right. So do you think the church
Interesting.
is really shrinking, Jessica?
I don't know. Is it? I mean, apparently to them it is. That's the funny thing. On one hand, they're saying they're growing than never before, and apologists are talking about members leaving. The funny thing is, Halverson also, I think it was a year later, claimed that now Mormons are not leaving because of truth, because the church doesn't feel good anymore, or it feels to them they're not Christian enough. So none of this, honestly, if I were a believing member, speaks really to the church. I don't know how they make their brains still do all the loops and gymnastics, but that's Mormonism's favorite pastime activity, I feel. What I thought was interesting to me as a woman to hear, why is he shocked? For that's not a new thing, that's all normal and good, but it's so shocking that women are leaving. Why? Because you took us all for granted? Why is it so shocking to him that women, we have the same brain? I mean, like brains, and I at least believe so, our brains are pretty much the same. There's nothing to do what's between our legs. So why is it so shocking? I think it's actually shocking that it took women so long. Let's say it this way. I think that's more shocking than that they're actually leaving.
Yeah.
So that's sort of, in a way, that was about almost 2 years ago. And it sort of started a firestorm of women talking about what Jared Halverson said. And, so somehow the church has had to do some things over time to try to figure out how to appease or keep people in, and different things happen. And they say it's because of ongoing revelation, but it's really just because the corporation looks at data and tries to, adjust things to build up their stats or keep up income or revenue, however you would think an organization would. But it's not just that, because there is these, sort of principles that prior leaders have stated, right? So they do fight back, because when Brigham Young wanted to do the Adam God theory of religion,
doctrine,
that there was pushback in real time, right? And he actually only got that in the St. George Temple, I believe. Is that true?
No, it was in
Where
every
they were learning
temple.
at the Veil.
It was in every temple.
So it was in every temple, but I think it stayed around longest in the St. George.
No, Logan.
Logan, okay. So
My
anyhow,
grandfather remembers telling me about it when he went through in the teens.
Yeah. So Tim, you want to sort of, and we can discuss, you can say some things, and then we can talk about these data points, these timestamps of women's participation in things in the church. So Tim's done a little research just over the last few minutes, even. And so what's the very first thing that you have for women's participation in the church?
Relief Society.
So the Relief Society, and that was
1842 to 1844.
Okay.
And then again,
they
in
first wanted to do it, and they actually started it, and then Joseph Smith said, well, this is a good idea, but let me tell you, it needs to be done according to the order of the priesthood or something like that.
Yeah, I give you the key, turn the key to you. Can't remember
so
the
the
exact
women had
expression.
the idea themselves. It didn't come from Joseph Smith. Didn't approach the women with the ideas. Hey, God told me this is something that should happen. The women had the idea, and then Joseph Smith tweaked it. He wanted to put his fingerprints on it, and so that got changed. And so women, they operated their own relief society. They had their own meetings. They invited Joseph Smith to speak to them, and at some point he is quoted as saying he wanted to make this organization a kingdom of priests
Priests and priestesses.
and priestesses. And that quote was taken to just mean he meant only the priesthood. And it was in Sunday school manuals and priesthood manuals, just talking about the priesthood, but he uttered it at a presentation given to the Relief Society, which only historians, found out the real thing once the Joseph Smith Papers Project and other open history situations that came over the last 50 years brought that out. And so, so women, they had their own offices and officers, and they published manuals. They did all
Well, after 1844, there was no Relief Society until 1867.
And that's the other thing, is that Brigham Young, or was it Joseph Smith then that canceled it?
No, it was Brigham.
What month in 44? It was in
I
August.
don't have an exact date.
What was Brigham pissed at Emma again?
So I don't remember who did it in 1844, but Joseph Smith
It was
died.
Brigham Young. It had to be Brigham Young.
And
It
so
ceased operation.
it makes the most sense. And then somehow it was brought back. And whenever women celebrate the Relief Society birthday, they start from the 1843 or 1842 date, but they never say that it was not a thing for so long, right? And then I always
For
say
23 years.
I mean,
that it's the largest
kind of
and
how long it
longest running women's organization that's run by men.
exactly.
Right.
Whenever
Exactly.
somebody humble brags about the Relief Society, I always try to get that in there.
But that's the other problem. Like, Mormonism likes to pretend history is smooth. There was never any hiccups. And that's the problem. They want to make it look like everything was like there from the beginning. They knew exactly Brigham Young was just the second prophet. That's the same shitty story. It took forever, like almost 2 years until he became a prophet, because the other ones didn't want him. Nobody knew who was after Joseph Smith. It's the same mannerism. Afterwards, Mormonism fixed the story to make it look smooth and inspired.
That's
Sure,
right.
it's like the first vision. He didn't say a word.
Yep.
When it happened, right?
Yep.
12 years later, once he's finished his book and started the LDS Church, 12 years later, after he started the church, is when he first came up with this story.
Yeah.
His first story. And
that's when he first wrote it down. He didn't
Yeah.
tell the church about it until much later, when they published it in the Messenger and Advocate.
Yeah.
It wasn't known.
It still
all people knew was Moroni and the Book of Mormon. They didn't know about the first vision until the 1834, 35, 36 time frame.
Yeah.
Because he hadn't invented it yet. He hadn't.
Well, he didn't need
that this
to.
was going to be the.
That's right.
the
And
catch.
And now we have 9 versions of it. I only, again, knew of one because it was so clear and smooth. And it was, that was our foundation. No,
when you can rewrite history, you can take out a lot of wrinkles.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
so to me, the next thing about women is the inner circle that Joseph Smith was getting together. There was a quorum of the anointed that really close to Joseph's death, I think.
No, the quorum of the anointed consisted of those practicing plural marriage.
Exactly.
And those initiated into the endowment. That was the quorum of the anointed.
But then, so were able to look up, was it Wilford Woodruff that wrote?
I couldn't find that quote.
I heard somewhere that Wilford Woodruff wrote in his diary that on this day, Emma Smith became the first woman to hold the Melchizedek priesthood. And I think she received her second anointing. There was
no, not till later on. Yes, in the quorum, but not till later on. I don't know how the exact.
So yeah, some historian can clear up everything that knows it, but nonetheless, there were machinations that Joseph Smith was doing. So that was impressive to Wilford Woodruff that the women were included in these rites. And
but to add 2 more information to that, right? But again, Emma was woman number 20 or 21 being sealed to him, right?
Yes.
Again, not a smooth story, not a clean cut.
And we could say women's activity in the church.
I mean, think about how disturbing that most of
is about being plural wives.
Exactly. That was my second point. That is so disturbing, that one picture where you see this, I think it's a drawing where all the women are in Relief Society and Joseph Smith sitting there, and Emma's the only dumb cow there who didn't know most of those women were, with her husband. And how convenient to have that Relief Society for Joseph Smith that he is the head of. In every way, he was the head of those women.
Yeah. And so, Tim, then what comes next for women's involvement in the church?
Young Women's in 1870. The Young Women's Organization is founded by Susie Young Gates, if I remember right.
Okay. And so did you look up when there was first like a general young women's group leadership?
1870.
So 1870. And then what about Sunday school?
Well, you did.
Oh, that's not a women's thing yet, come to think of it.
The irony of
this. Let's jump in the gun.
1878 is primary begins.
Primary, that's what I was actually meaning.
Okay.
Primary. And I'm going to say that women probably started Sunday school in individual wards. And then once the church was finding out that these things were happening, they wanted to make it church-wide. And so they took over leadership of it.
Probably. And then 1898, the first female missionaries.
And all throughout this period, women were anointing and blessing.
Well, hang on.
I don't have to hang on. You could just add to it.
From 1842 to 1946, women could give blessings.
All the way to 1946.
1946.
Tim, I have a question. Do you know why the church made women, that's really out of the blue, women mission missionaries? Do we know what the benefit was, or were women asking for it, or do we know?
I didn't research that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I was just asked to pull a timeline together.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And I only had 40 minutes to do it in.
I know. I tried. It's not that easy. There's no clean-cut outline out there.
Well, that's why we're going through 3 or 4 different things.
Yeah,
okay? Till 1946, they could give blessings. And it was George Albert Smith who finally ended it.
Okay. Why?
And they're told they're told to rely on the priesthood to give blessings.
Of course. How dare they do something on their own?
Right.
So that was in 46?
46.
1946?
1946.
Women could give blessings up until then.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Well, there are different things. You have 1842, 1844 to 1870, where Eliza Snow performed healings. Well, they performed in the temple. You needed somebody in the female department to wash and anoint the sisters. So women are still doing it in the temple to this day. Women are still performing these ordinances in the temple. Think about that. Okay. So they could do washings and anointings from 1842 until now in the temple.
Yeah.
Okay. So from 1840 to 1870, they give healings, washings and anointings to women during childbirth, prayers of faith. Then John Taylor says they have the right to lay hands on the sick in cases of their own sex. So don't bless men, but bless women. And then Eliza publishes in the Women's Exponent how they should do it, and that they do not use the authority of the Melchizedek priesthood, but the authority of their own faith. And then the shift begins in 1900 to 20 with Joseph S. Smith, that women can bless the sick is preferable to call the elders. And then in 1914, he clarifies that not use the authority of the priesthood. And 1921 to 1940, increased regulations and correlation, discouraging, and then the formal ending in 46.
There you go. The Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away.
That's right.
So a deep diver for you comments that Mormon women were among the first in the United States to vote under an equal suffrage law granted.
Oh, a woman was the first, a woman, and I can't remember the year, I didn't write it down, was one of the first females to serve in the state legislature, territorial legislature.
There's lots of
Utah.
advancements for women, but
the dark side of this is because I remember like when I started deconstructing, where people were like, this is a good thing, look how awesome. But the dark side of, I think it was, what is, remember now the name, but the dark side of this is it's not because they wanted to really give women right. It was more like that they can still vote in blocks, that all those polygamist women voted as their husband told them to. There was no real empowerment of women. So I kind of hate that statement because it makes it looks like almost polygamy is a good thing. Look, women could vote first, but it's not. It's just more tools for men to use.
Well, and Jessica, the right was given by Congress, I believe, and they were hoping that the women would vote against polygamous issues, but the women followed their husbands' wishes.
Yeah, that's to me not understanding religious power over women. That's just like, those were worldly men hoping they could give them some tools to free themselves, kind of the same thing, the laws against polygamy. America was hoping to crush it, but it just makes it more complicated for women to leave those cults, religions, whatever you want to call it, because they're so manipulated. They often have so little financial or anything power to leave. Yep. So it's meant well, but I think we overestimate and overshare this as a good thing, because I really think it's not a good thing. It was just a bigger tool for polygamists to use their wives and their boats.
That's right. Randy, do you have a comment on that?
Amanda and I were watching TV last night. We were watching The Secret Lives of Mormon Housewives, and it was really interesting. It showed one of the couples, and they're debating whether or not they should do something. The husband says, I don't think we should. And she says, yeah, but I want to because blah, blah, blah. And he says, well, hey, typically it's the priesthood holder that makes these decisions. Said that right on the air, and of course it just went on. But boy, I made a mental note of that they're still teaching that loud and clear. When it comes down to important decisions, you let the priesthood holder make them, because obviously the women have no clue of what they're doing. They're flailing in blindness. That's without having that priesthood.
And then, Tim, is this where we would talk about prayer in sacrament meeting?
Oh, yeah. They could pray from 1842 to 1967 in sacrament meeting. And then from 67 to 78, they could not. And then from
then they were allowed to open sacrament meeting.
Open sacrament meeting, yep.
Yeah. So it's funny.
Well, even before, from 42 to 67, you could have opening and closing prayers by women.
Yeah.
I have actually
Are these things that God came down and revealed and said, this is just for a little while. We'll yank them back off the stand?
The
Yeah,
argument
apparently.
was about presiding, whether someone who says a prayer presides or not.
Oh,
This all has to do with keys and authority and presiding.
it's not.
So
It wasn't God saying, I'm already sick of all the women voices, the million wives I have. I'm tired of hearing from women during sacrament meeting offering prayers to me. I only want to hear from the men. It wasn't God doing that at all.
Well, and let's make it a little bigger, like talks. So Lucy Smith, the prophet's mother, was the first women speaking to a conference in 1845. So you could think,
right.
wow, right? But the next LDS authority did not invite another woman to address conference for 143 years.
Yes.
That diminishes that one talk, if you ask me. Then it's worth nothing if it took another 140 years for another one to come up.
Yeah, so don't trumpet that as a success.
Talk.
Yeah.
Really crappy talk if they didn't want to repeat it.
It was so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, we're not going to do this again for 140 years.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so
apparently.
So I first heard that in the 80s and it's like, then when I was in other meetings, people were saying, oh, we always have to have a priesthood holder say the closing prayer and sacrament.
Yeah.
Like, when did that happen? I don't remember that any time during my life or anything like that,
No, I do remember that. And the last talk, women were not allowed to have the biggest chunk in a sacrament meeting of the last talk. Women were, if even the mid talk, right? The 10 minutes is the most women got to talk in sacrament meeting.
There you go. And then there was this big thing. The ordained women discovered that there hadn't been any women giving prayers in general conference.
Yep.
And
they could do it earlier, and then it stopped. But it was until 2013 the first woman.
But I remember the announcement was, we've looked at the records and we can't say how long or whether women have ever given talks before. We can't tell by the record whether, said the prayer before. But
it says here, not until 1978 did the church release a statement affirming that there was no scriptural prohibition against sisters offering prayers in sacrament meetings. It was therefore decided that it is permissible for sisters to offer prayers in any meeting they attend. But it would not be until April 6, 2013, that Jean A. Stevenson was invited by the brethren to offer the very first female prayer at a worldwide opening. Again, it takes them decades without reasoning. And I'm pretty sure a lot of pressure from someone. That's why I was asking before why women all of a sudden became sister missionaries. I'm pretty sure there were enough females out there pushing and pushing and pushing until kind of the church breaks or is too scared or whatever the reasoning is, but it's never inspiration. I can tell you that much. The coincidences are too close when they change something without even a good reason. That's even more pathetic than saying we had something, that stopped us.
So this 2013 allowing women to pray sort of starts the church throwing breadcrumbs towards the women.
Yes.
Well, they had the first general women's meeting in 1978. So they had a meeting for women, but they didn't give anything until 2013 or 20, whenever it was.
And I remember a lot of women's meetings were also led by men and
always
presided
but
over.
Also remember that you had, before General Conference, you had a conference for the young women, you had a conference for Mutual, you had a conference for Relief Society, all leading up to General Conference. That you had all these meetings that I remember going to the Tabernacle. We were driving through Utah sometime, and there was a primary conference going. We walked into the Tabernacle, and this primary conference. What the heck? This isn't April. Whenever it was like the summertime, and they would have these conferences throughout the year. And now they do the meetings, but you don't get it. You don't hear about it or see it. I guess because they're doing it somewhere else. But I just remember that.
And so what other nuggets, breadcrumbs are tossed to the women since then?
In 2018, they could witness baptisms. And in 2019, they could be witnesses in the temple.
Yep.
Okay.
And then I feel in between, I don't think there is a date, but I remember in my ward where all of a sudden this talk and conversation was about, well, women do have the priesthood when you have a calling, the authority, but not the power or something, where they made this weird distinction, like it was a huge thing, like women have priesthood authority or power, I don't know, but it's like this weird distinction where I always was like, but what do I do with it? I can't do shit. So it's just a word you give me now.
That's right. My wife only held the priesthood when she gave me a hug. Most of our marriage.
Exactly. Well, and then the problem you have, I just read from somebody, like somebody was asking, how has the role of women changed in the LDS Church over time? And somebody said, I don't think much. LDS women often say they co-hold the priesthood with their husbands, which means, and there's the problem, unmarried, widowed, and divorced women are still left out of any linkage to the priesthood. So much to your hug. So if you don't have a hug close by, you still have nothing as a woman in the church. I thought that was a good comment. You know, I didn't thought about that either. There is another group that's left out.
So also they changed the missionary age to 18 now for women.
And do we have a date on that? Was that just recent?
Well,
last year?
Pre-2012 it was 21, and I think they changed it to 20 or 19, and now it's 18. It just happened a couple of months ago.
Yeah, they changed it, I think, twice. Yeah, exactly.
So that's not a right that they granted women. That's just a change in the policy.
And how women participated in the church, right?
Yeah.
It's not like an extra blessing to be able to go on a mission a year earlier or whatever.
Yeah.
Or, more priesthood or anything.
Well, they want them to couple up. I mean, that's it.
And now they get that. Randy Watts is suggesting they have a missionary and sister missionary ball that they do every now and then, so that
take your
elders and the sisters can go on a ball date.
Grab your favorite sister missionary and dance away.
Yeah. But with the Book of Mormon between you, right?
Well, I don't know. You'll have to ask the prophet.
Well, this is going to be an interesting 2 years to watch.
Yeah.
Okay? It's awesome.
Yeah.
And I found another interesting kind of summary for history in church. It says the 19th and early 20th century accounts of Latter-day Saints history often neglected women's role in founding the religion. The 1872 history, The Rise, Progress, and Travels of the Church of Jesus Christ, does not name any women. The 7-volume History of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints by B.H. Roberts only mentions a few women. A notable exception to this was 19th century historian Edward Tullidge, and Claudia Bushman stood alone as a Mormon feminist historian before the revitalization of the women's movement in the 1970s. Just to say, there are also no women in the Book of Mormon. We know one name, that's Sarah, Lehi's wife, right? Like, women are just women, objects, bodies. They have no name, they have no character, they have no real meaning besides popping out babies and supporting their husbands. So it's kind of in the essence of Mormonism. Even if you as a woman dearly wants to look for something, you have no more meaning than your womb.
Yeah, like most of the women that are named are like troublemakers. Right? Like Jezebel,
the harlots.
Who's the Samson? Who's the cut?
Yes,
Samson
exactly,
hair?
exactly.
Delilah.
Yeah.
Delilah.
And then also to the whole thing with jobs and what Mormons believe women's qualities are. As Rev. Benson stated, that women have qualities of faithfulness, benevolence, and charity that balance, and that's a quote, the more aggressive and competitive nature of men. Speaking of women working in professions equal to men, Howard W. Hunter said, I hope the time never comes when women will be brought down to the level with men, although they seem to be making these demands in meetings held all over the world.
Yeah, down to the level of leadership.
What? Down to the level.
Exactly. That's the benevolent, right? We pretend women are more spiritual, but then I'm like, why are we not leaving? If the women are the more spiritual one, why are we the ones who have no real authority in this church? This is just the breadcrumbs. This is like lying through your teeth, giving you a little here and there, but it's all the shit show. I'm sorry. I mean, this is a joke. If you hear this, like the aggressive and competitive nature of men.
Howard W., the misogynist Hunter.
And that, I mean, I remember him. It's not like he was like, 100 years ago, and he's saying he hopes it would never come. And now Mormon women claim it's all normal. No, we're working. Not a problem. Yes, it was. For a long time for women, it was.
That's right.
So
that comes to the fact that recently they announced that women could be Sunday school presidents. Now, they had allowed women to be secretaries. I think Maven said that she was a secretary in her student ward to the Sunday school.
I just want to say, I don't think in a regular ward. I have never heard this, but student ward might be.
And somehow the change is the wording just allows for women to be Sunday school presidents, but whatever it was is like that all had to be the same gender.
Yeah,
So
there's a caveat, and that's what it is. The reason being, you can't have a woman as president telling one of her male priesthood holding counselors what to do.
Well,
Because
and then
that doesn't go along with the patriarchy that we know so well. Go ahead, Jessica.
Or the excuse I heard online, right, was this that they don't trust two mixed genders to work together. Apparently, Mormons just want to hop everybody's bones as soon as two genders are in the room, which, if you think about it, the irony is, well, that's what we just talked about. It. That's what Joe Smith literally did in Relief Society. So maybe there's more truth to it than we thought.
That's right. In honor of Gritty's comment, I'd like to thank my mother for giving me life.
Yes.
I commented somewhere online, someone was talking about that men come from women's vaginas. And I said, not me. I was a test tube baby. Or you could say a womb with a view.
There you go.
Well, and that's the first patriarchal lie or overtake, right? That men had a problem that women are the creator of life. So patriarchy said, wait, there is an Adam and Eve story. That's not.
So anyway, I don't know how long Jessica's gonna be frozen, but
true. Not the female who created life, right? That's the first patriarchal shit story.
Randy and Tim and I were told that a stork delivered us to the
That's
hospital.
right. That's right.
Somehow women would go to a hospital for no reason whatsoever, and then a stork would deliver her a baby.
Was probably a female stork.
Yeah, of course.
It was always
It
was always a swaddling cloth that the stork was holding, and the baby was nestled there in the swaddling cloth, and it would just fly over and, I don't know, drop you down the chimney, or I don't know how the actual delivery happened.
Yeah. Similar
like
to Santa Claus.
Yeah. If you think about deeper about the Adam and Eve story also, is like, so if there was enough dirt to create a human, why was there not enough dirt to create the other human? Why did God had to abuse Adam and break his rib and make another human? Why not take more dirt and make an independent human? It's a patriarchal story. Like, I think Maven just mentioned it. Women in patriarchy need to make sure they understand they're below.
Brady's right. That's what I was going to get to. It's taken away what women are, women's value, right?
Yeah. Do you want to maybe share? Next time I'll learn more about sharing my screen, but do you want to share some of those videos in the beginning? I think some of them are quite short, but they're addressed, which we all kind of trying to get to, right? This new point that now Mormonism, women can be Sunday school president, and why it's actually kind of a joke.
So you have that. You sent that in recently in Facebook. Did we want to show the 1 minute? What's his name?
Halverson again?
Halverson.
I don't think we need Halverson because that's kind of in the past, and it's just his personal thing.
I had to take that out of the queue.
Yeah, there is. I think Nemo has a pretty good one, but there, I think what's her name? Julia. She's after Halverson. If you want to show that video, that's a really good one too.
Julia Sanders.
Yeah. It's 1 minute and 16. I think it's right after Halverson.
I scrolled too far down.
Is there anything we're adding to stage of these two things, guys?
I don't
Or
think for
can I
now.
take them away?
Yeah, you can. Well, we could talk real quick if we're talking about, people leaving. The second, can I share it? No, I can't. The church numbers. Do you want to go on that one?
Sure.
That was just recently posted, and I thought it was interesting because that's the other kind of other side of the same coin, right? Like Mormons still want to hound the 17.5 millions, but if they think about it, it's more like to the 4.2 millions are active. And then even more shocking, which I just learned, I think 2 years ago too, is out of those, an even smaller number have a temple recommend, which to Mormons is the true Mormon, right? A true Mormon has a temple recommend. So that means only 1 million of the Earth's 8.1 billion people, which you can read by yourself how little that is in percentage, have any shot of making it to the celestial kingdom. Not a great plan that Heavenly Father outlined for us. Also remember that a third of his children decided to follow Satan in the pre-existence. That is about 39 billion sons and daughters of perdition who end up in outer darkness, since there have been about 117 billion humans that have lived on Earth. And also to the point, which I always like to make, is that's really shitty parents. If they did have family home evening on a regular, shouldn't they be more successful?
I mean, just think there's 8 billion people that aren't Mormons in the
Yes.
earth. And then if you even just took that 0.1 billion and said, of the 0.1 billion, how many are active Mormons? You still only have like 5% of that 0.1 billion
Exactly.
that are believing active Mormons. And I tell people there are more Mormons that don't believe in Mormonism than there are that do believe in Mormonism. And those Mormonism they're voting with their feet.
And more people, let's say, because I can't prove how many people watch the Book of Mormon musical, but more people have watched the Book of Mormon musical by far than active Mormons, which is kind of ironic too.
That's a given. Yeah.
Yes.
That's right. I also asked the AI in a box that we have in our home, how many people believe in the flat earth theory.
Oh, yes.
And they said, like in Brazil alone, it was like 17 million people or something like that. Or Brazil plus some other countries equaled more than the members of the church. And so I tell people more people believe in the flat earth theory than believe in Mormonism.
There's another good one. I think it was a crazy number. I think 16 million people in America believe like white milk comes from white cows and chocolate milk comes from brown cows.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. So even those people didn't become Mormons, even though they're, I would say, quite dumb, and still they figured out Mormonism is not true.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Are you saying that chocolate milk does not come from brown cows?
That's right. And
Well,
where
How
are
is
the
it
pink,
that color?
where
in
are the
Germany,
pink
it's
cows
purple
doing
cows.
Nestle Quick?
Purple cows gives chocolate. So, I mean, depends which country you're in, Randy. We have the
Okay.
Milka cow. It's a special cow.
Okay, so I'm ready to play Julia now.
Yes.
You ready?
Yes.
Okay, let's play Julia. And then we're going to add our link so that people can join in the conversation.
Yesterday, the Salt Lake Tribune, as well as Fox 13, shared some surprising news about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The article is titled, "In Stride Toward Greater Gender Equity, LDS Church Opens Up a Post Previously Held Only by Men." And what post might that be? The Utah-based faith will now allow women to join Sunday school presidencies, which oversee the weekly teaching of scriptures and church doctrine to members. This is something, but before you get too excited, there's more. If a woman is called as a Sunday school president, her counselors must be female members of the ward. In short, there will be no mixed gender presidencies, because God forbid that women be in charge of men. And also another thing, this change does not apply to stakes, regional collections of congregations, or at the general church level. The faith has an all-male, 3-member Sunday school general presidency. I feel like I should be excited about this, but I'm not. Did you know that it wasn't until 2013 that women were allowed to even pray in general conference? My therapist said to me this week, "I think God gave women menopause because we are worth more than our wombs." Do you think God or evolution may be trying to tell us something?
Go, Julia.
Laugh for Julia.
Go,
amazing.
Julia. Go,
Yes.
Julia. Go, Julia. Yeah.
You weren't supposed to say that 3 times,
This is
Tim.
only, yeah,
Because
this is
now, who knows what's going to happen? You're going to see this big monster coming into your house. I'm Julia.
But her distinction is very important, right? It's only on a ward level. So again, no real authority because they're not part of the new manual or anything. No stake level authority, girls.
No, because then they would be over priesthood men.
The stake.
Exactly.
That
and not
can't
even
happen.
exactly, and not even in Relief Society, which I was shocked. I just read this today. For example, in 2005, former first counselor of the General Relief Society presidency, Chiyoko N. Okazaki, granted an amazing interview with Gregory Prince. When she realized that the lesson manual was due to be updated soon, she prayerfully wrote a general outline to get the important process underway. After her outline was approved by a Relief Society presidency, she brought it to the appropriate male-led curriculum committee. She was promptly informed that her lesson manual outline and suggestions were not necessary because a new manual was already nearly completion. Men exercising their priesthood authority wrote the instruction manuals without consulting women. Not even in Relief Society, we're in charge of our own manuals.
Well, I love that the Relief Society or Women's Conference coming up.
Yeah.
The only male there, the key speaker, is a frickin' David Dingleberry.
Susan's husband?
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's
no.
Yeah, David. What's his last name?
Bednar. I thought no.
Bednar. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
of Susan. Oh, of Susan. Okay.
Yeah. Bednar is supposed to speak on, and the topic is women. What the hell does he know about being a woman?
Well, maybe seriously. More than we thought, but
no, that would be an insult to women.
So, would we like to extrapolate where this might go?
Okay.
Possibilities. Okay.
I think they will erase it.
Well, I asked, when will women obtain the priesthood? So,
never.
Well, they'd have to do some things.
Okay, grow a penis.
No. They'd have to delink the keys with the authority. So they'd have to say, you can serve as an assistant temple president or an assistant president or an area 70 in administrative duties rather than ecclesiastical. Okay. So.
Yes. I could put a dildo on. Maybe that works. Make that a difference. Maybe
we might
throw a strap-on on there, and you'll be fine.
And women as priestesses, the church could further emphasize the queen and priestess aspect of the temple endowment, potentially allowing for female blessings of faith of specific rituals performed by women for women outside the temple, reviving the 19th century tradition. That's a possibility.
By the way, I wasn't holding this up because we were talking penises. I was holding it up because crochet taper
I see now that it has eyes,
came on, and I was showing her that we have our tapers here.
We have our tapers here.
Yes, very
yes, we do. We have our taper. Jeans is at home, so thank you, taper crochet.
Well, Jane, you should carry it with you.
So probably in the next 5 to 10 years, they will do something. They're going to have to do something because to keep membership, they're going to have to. I mean, they've done away with everything that's fun in the church, right? So.
Yeah, polygamy, starting with polygamy. No, fun for the men.
I'm not even sure it's fun for the men. Honestly, this whole thing it's fun for men. Do you know how many mother-in-laws you have and father-in-laws with all those women?
You know how much fun I would not have to have multiple wives?
Most men can please one woman, and you want to please 10? Seriously?
Right? Okay, well, I wasn't admitting that about myself.
No,
But
sure. No.
yeah,
He's
I
an
would not
exception.
want to have to
Always.
handle more than one woman.
Exactly.
I am not man
I think
enough.
that the 12 to 18-year-old females in the church will be able to pass the sacrament first soon.
I could see that, yes, because it's
I-
a smaller
yes.
thing to give without
More
breaking too
breadcrumbs.
much. Yes, exactly. More breadcrumbs. You know
Literally.
what?
Well, okay, look, they want, after you're baptized, they want to give kids a recommend to do baptism for the dead between 8 and 12, 11 years old. They're going to
That's
say,
cool.
we want you to do baptism for the dead. So they're going to start to indoctrinate them to the temple through baptism for the dead. So they're going to go from 11, let's say 11 to 18, doing baptisms for the dead. And they're going to be tied to the temple that way. So that's how they're going to indoctrinate them.
The problem is, I think the church needs to give more breadcrumbs fast, because otherwise the women choke on breadcrumbs. Because the nice thing is, when you leave the church, I can just have a whole bread of loaf. I can have the full loaf. I don't need breadcrumbs anymore
But
to choke
they
on.
need to,
And then, nice,
They-
one more.
they need to give everybody more bread. They need to give back a young men's and a young women's program.
Yeah.
You know, they don't offer anything anymore. And if they go to 1 hour church, what's that going to do?
I know. That will be worse.
Yeah,
That will be worse.
it's just, it's too late. They blew it.
Always. It's always a
Always
lot
too
too late.
late.
Yes.
Yep. Too much, too little, too
Yeah.
late.
Exactly. Do we have another video in line?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we played
I
that
don't.
We're ready.
Do you have one, Randy?
Well, I have the video that we were going to show about.
Yeah,
The
let's
decline in numbers.
switch gears, but it's all part
Yeah.
of the same thing. Randy, you
Exactly.
get that queued up. And
Yeah.
the main thing is people are leaving religion in droves. They're leaving the Mormon church in droves. They've drove away from some of the bigger other churches out there. And I won't say the Catholic Church, I'll just say other churches.
Yeah.
But anyhow,
Well,
well, Randy.
I'm gonna remove, if it's okay, I need to remove these.
Yeah, you can remove everything now.
Okay. I'm not going to be able to, what the heck is going on?
Yeah,
Is it,
Jessica, you have to remove those little things.
Okay.
You have to remove them.
I'll do
First
it.
of all.
Done.
Okay. Great. Thank you very much. So I don't understand why, but I can't hear my own video. So I'm going to leave it up to Gene, you to turn
I'll
it
tell
on
you.
and turn it off. And then I'll just have to.
Once
figure
you
out
put
what
it
the
in,
heck
if you're
is
still
going on.
sitting there, I'll add it to the stage and I'll tell you, and then you just press play.
Okay.
By the
And
way,
so-
when Gene, when you said, like other religions too, there is an interesting video where Mormon was claiming, why are only the Mormons making videos about leaving? And somebody made the effort of every religion. There are ex-members who say, this is why I left the Baptist church. This is why I left the Muslim church. This is why I'm not a Jew. So it's everywhere. It's not.
it is
just
everywhere.
Mormons. Exactly.
Right.
Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Go ahead.
In 2024, the LDS Church quietly closed 326 wards across North America. By the end of 2025, that number reached 438. But here's what most members don't know. There's a pattern. A predictable algorithm hidden in family search data, real estate transactions, and mission boundary adjustments that reveals exactly which congregations will disappear next. The West Coast has lost 12% of its active membership in just 3 years. The Midwest is consolidating at record speed. And while legacy wards are dying in places where Mormonism was born, Utah County is building megachurch-style stake centers that hold 6 wards under one roof. Today, we're going to decode the data and predict which wards will close in 2027. Welcome to Salvini. I'm your host, and if you're new here, this channel examines religious institutions through the lens of history, finance, and demographic reality. We don't attack faith, we analyze the systems built around it. And today's topic is one that makes active LDS members deeply uncomfortable: the systematic contraction of the Mormon Church's physical footprint in North America. Can we actually predict which wards will close? The answer is yes. And the methodology is simpler than you think. If you value this kind of institutional analysis, data-driven, respectful, and unflinching, subscribe to Solvany right now. This research took weeks to compile, and I need to know there's an audience for this level of depth. Let's begin with the most important question. What does a dying ward look like before it officially closes? To predict ward closures, you don't need insider access to Salt Lake City. You need 3 publicly available data streams: family search records, county real estate transactions, and mission boundary maps. Here's how it works. First, family search activity. Family search isn't just a genealogy tool, it's a mirror of member engagement. When ward participation drops, family search activity in that geographic area drops with it. We can track submissions, temple ordinance requests, and family tree contributions by zip code. Between 2020 and 2025, certain regions showed a catastrophic decline. Northern California, down 34% in submissions. Portland metro area, down 29%. Seattle-Tacoma, down 41%. These aren't random fluctuations. They're early warning signals. Second, real estate transactions. When the LDS Church decides to close a ward, the building doesn't just sit empty. Within 18 to 24 months, that property quietly goes on the market, often sold to evangelical megachurches or converted into community centers. We tracked every LDS meeting house sale since 2018. The pattern is clear. Buildings are listed 8 to 14 months before the official ward closure announcement. By monitoring county records in real time, we can predict closures before members even hear rumors. In 2023 alone, the church sold 47 buildings in the US. In 2024, that number jumped to 83, and the 2025 data shows 61 properties already in escrow or pending sale. Third, mission boundary changes. This is the subtlest signal and the most accurate. When the church redraws mission boundaries, it's not arbitrary. It reflects demographic reality. If a mission's borders suddenly contract, it means the leadership has acknowledged unsustainable member density in that region. Between 2022 and 2025, we witnessed mission consolidations in Oregon, Washington, Illinois, Ohio, and upstate New York. Each consolidation was followed within 18 months by widespread ward closures in the same areas. The algorithm is simple. Family search decline plus real estate activity plus mission contraction equals imminent ward closure. And when we run this formula forward to 2027, the results are staggering. Pause for a second. Do you live in an area where you've noticed your ward shrinking? Have boundaries been redrawn in your stake? Tell me in the comments. I want to know if this data matches what you're seeing on the ground. Let's start with the most dramatic collapse, the West Coast. In 1990, California had over 750,000 baptized members. But here's the twist. Baptized membership and active membership are not the same thing. The LDS Church counts anyone who was ever baptized and hasn't formally resigned. But sacrament meeting attendance tells a different story. And in California, Oregon, and Washington, sacrament meeting attendance has been in free fall since 2015. The data is brutal. Oakland, California. Stake. Lost 4 wards since 2019, down from 9 wards to 5. Portland, Oregon East Stake. Consolidated from 8 wards to 4 in just 3 years. Seattle, Washington North Stake. Reduced from 7 wards to 3. 3 meeting houses sold. Why is this happening? Cultural misalignment. The West Coast is the least religious region in America. Younger generations raised in liberal, secular environments are walking away from organized religion at unprecedented rates. The LDS Church, with its conservative social positions, finds itself culturally incompatible with the dominant ethos of coastal cities. Cost of living. Active LDS families are being priced out. A young Mormon couple in San Jose or Seattle can't afford a home on a single income, and the church's traditional family model assumes one parent stays home. So they leave. They move to Idaho, Utah, or Arizona, where housing is cheaper and Mormon culture is stronger. The missionary collapse. Perhaps most telling, the number of missionaries serving from West Coast stakes has dropped 38% since 2018. Families that don't send missionaries are families that are already halfway out the door. When we run the algorithm on current West Coast data, here's what we see for 2027. Northern California, 12 to 18 additional ward closures. Oregon, 8 to 11 ward closures. Washington State, 9 to 14 ward closures. That's 29 to 43 wards gone in just 2 years. And that's a conservative estimate. But here's what makes this even more significant. Many of these buildings being sold, they're being purchased by charismatic Christian churches and non-denominational megachurches. The religious infrastructure isn't disappearing, it's just changing hands. The irony? The LDS Church is inadvertently funding the growth of the very denominations it competes with for converts. What do you think is the biggest reason for the West Coast exodus? Cost of living, cultural shift, or something else? Let me know your thoughts below. Now let's flip the script. While the coasts are collapsing, something remarkable is happening in the Zion Corridor, the stretch from northern Utah down through St. George and into Gilbert, Arizona. This isn't growth, it's consolidation. Active LDS families are leaving the coasts and the Midwest and relocating to areas with dominant Mormon culture. And the church's building strategy has changed to accommodate them. The megachurch model? Traditional LDS architecture involves small, neighborhood-based meeting houses serving 200 to 400 members across 1 or 2 wards. But in Utah County, the church is building something different. Massive stake centers housing 4 to 6 wards under one roof. These buildings look more like megachurches than traditional meeting houses. They have multiple chapels with rotating sacrament meeting times, consolidated budgets that reduce per capita costs, centralized administrative staff, and parking lots the size of shopping malls. Why the shift? Economic efficiency. It's cheaper to build one large facility than 4 small ones. Maintenance costs drop, utility expenses are consolidated. And with member donations plateauing, the church is optimizing for cost efficiency. Cultural density. In areas with high Mormon concentration, members don't need a meeting house within walking distance. They'll drive 15 minutes if it means attending a thriving ward with 300 plus active members instead of a struggling ward with 80. The Gilbert, Arizona example. Gilbert has become the blueprint. Between 2015 and 2025, the church built 9 new stake centers in the Gilbert area, but closed 14 traditional wards in the same region. The total number of members hasn't changed, but the number of congregations has dropped. This is consolidation masquerading as growth. Utah County's boom. Utah County added 6 new stakes between 2020 and 2025, but it's not because membership is exploding, it's because active families are concentrating. The church is reorganizing existing members into denser, more sustainable units. Meanwhile, legacy wards, those small-town congregations in places like Delta, Utah, or Richfield, are dying. These are the wards founded in the 1800s by pioneers. They once represented the geographic spread of Mormonism across the American West. But in 2025, they're ghosts. Aging populations, shrinking primary classes, sacrament meetings with 40 attendees. When we run the algorithm on rural Utah, we see something shocking. Even in the Mormon heartland, 18 to 25 legacy wards are predicted to close by 2027. If you're in Utah or Arizona, have you noticed this shift toward megachurch-style stake centers? Does your ward feel more crowded, or are you seeing consolidation? Drop your experience in the comments. The Midwest tells a different story. This is where Mormonism was born: Kirtland, Ohio, Nauvoo, Illinois, Independence, Missouri. These are sacred sites in LDS history, and they're vanishing. The historical irony. In 1830, the LDS Church was founded in upstate New York. By 1831, the center of the church had moved to Kirtland, Ohio. By 1839, it was Nauvoo, Illinois. These were thriving Mormon communities, thousands of members building temples, establishing businesses, creating cities. Today, the Kirtland, Ohio stake has 4 wards. Down from 9 in 2005, the Nauvoo, Illinois stake, effectively defunct. Most members are retirees or historians managing the historic sites. The last active family ward closed in 2021. The demographic cliff. The Midwest is experiencing what demographers call a faith cliff, the sudden collapse of religious affiliation among millennials and Gen Z. LDS wards in Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, and Missouri are dominated by members over 60. There are no young families. Primary classes have 3 or 4 children instead of 20. Youth programs are combined across stakes because there aren't enough teenagers in a single ward. This isn't a temporary dip. This is structural collapse. The brain drain. Young, educated LDS members leave the Midwest for jobs in tech, finance, or healthcare, and they move to Utah, Texas, or Arizona. The Midwest retains the elderly and the economically immobile. And when the older generation passes away, there's no one to replace them. Our algorithm predicts 22 to 31 Midwest ward closures by 2027. That includes stakes in Cleveland, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, St. Louis, and the Quad Cities. And here's the kicker. The LDS Church is still sending missionaries to these areas. Stakes with 50 active members are expected to support 2 or 3 full-time missionaries. It's unsustainable. The mission boundaries are contracting, but the closure of missions themselves is coming next. So let's put it all together. When we run the algorithm, family search data, real estate transactions, mission boundary changes across the entire North American LDS landscape. Here's what we predict for 2027. Total ward closures, 240 to 310. That's an average of 120 to 155 per year in 2026 and 2027. Regional breakdown. West Coast, 29 to 43 closures. Midwest, 22 to 31 closures. Rural Utah and Idaho, 18 to 25 closures. Northeast, 14 to 19 closures. Southeast, 11 to 16 closures. Mountain West, excluding Utah, 9 to 13 closures. High-risk stake categories. Stakes with average sacrament meeting attendance under 150 per ward. Stakes where more than 40% of members are over age 60. Stakes in counties with declining population. Stakes where no new meeting house has been built in 20+ years. If your ward fits 3 or more of these criteria, the algorithm gives it a 78% probability of closure or consolidation by 2027. What this means for the institution. The LDS Church is not collapsing, it's concentrating. It's pulling back from unsustainable geographic spread and consolidating resources in high-density Mormon corridors. This is a rational business decision, but it comes with profound theological implications. For 150 years, the LDS Church taught that it would fill the earth, that stakes and wards would multiply until every nation had a Mormon presence. The rhetoric was expansion, growth, dominion, but the data shows contraction. And perhaps the most uncomfortable truth, the algorithm doesn't lie. Members can dismiss critical media. They can ignore ex-Mormon podcasts. But they can't dismiss county records, family search analytics, and real estate transactions. The numbers don't care about faith. They reflect reality. Do you think the church's consolidation strategy is wise, or does it represent a failure of the global mission? Let me know what you think in the comments. So what have we learned? We've learned that institutional change is inevitable, even for organizations that claim divine guidance. We've learned that demographic trends are more powerful than theological rhetoric. And we've learned that data, when analyzed honestly, reveals patterns that members on the ground already feel but rarely articulate. The LDS Church is facing the same crisis every Western religious institution faces: declining engagement, generational loss, and geographic unsustainability. But unlike many denominations, the LDS Church has the financial resources and institutional discipline to adapt. The megachurch model in Utah, the consolidation in the Midwest, the strategic retreat from the coasts. These aren't signs of defeat. They're signs of reorganization. Whether that reorganization preserves the faith for another generation or accelerates its transformation into a regional ethnic religion-only, time will tell. If this analysis made you think, if it challenged assumptions, if it gave you a framework for understanding what's happening in your own stake, subscribe to Solvani. This is the kind of research we do every week. Deep dives into institutional systems, financial structures, and demographic realities. And most importantly, leave a comment. Tell me what you're seeing in your area. Are wards closing? Are boundaries being redrawn? Is your stake thriving or struggling? Your first-hand observations are data points. And data points become patterns, and patterns reveal truth. Until next time, stay curious, stay critical, and stay grounded in evidence. This is Solvani. In 2024, the LDS Church quietly closed 320.
Yeah, Solvani AI is
Yeah.
really difficult to listen to and to watch. Throws a lot of weird stuff in there.
Yeah.
But the pattern that they're talking about is that
well, one interesting aspect that I thought about was, because I was in a ward in Germany that got split, and then in San Antonio as well, is for the Mormon church, right, is always the only thing that is important is priesthood holders. Theoretically, you can have a whole Mormon ward full of men, sausage fest on the finest, no problem. Only women cannot exist. So that's one thing. The other thing that came to my mind was, and yet back making a 360 to Halverston, the Mormon church depends on free labor from women. They cannot do it all by themselves. If you want quality activity, which Tim mentioned, right? It all goes to shits right now. You need women who do free labor and don't work, because women who work don't have the same time either. They don't have time to making this big relief society extravaganza or a Christmas party that's, decorated to the notch. Those are all women, stay-at-home women. But even Mormonism struggles to keep women at home, because they understand right now in the economy, most families cannot just live on one income. So that's another problem, where I think why they're shrinking hours of church and callings, but now giving women Sunday school callings. If you ask me, I think they will get rid of Sunday school altogether sooner than later. Because even women are overworked. They're doing primary, they're doing young women's and relief society. And those are still more essential than Sunday school to Mormonism, if you ask me. So if they now also need to do, because there can only be one gender then in the presidency, you need 3 or 4 more women. And there are hardly any women sitting in relief society, because they're already doing primary and being mostly primary teachers and young women. I remember in most awards I've been, people were like, where are all the women in relief society? They're serving, or they're serving in state callings. So now you're shrinking relief society even more to the ground by taking 3 or 4 away for Sunday school. And the other thing, because I know there were some of our folks commenting with some Catholic, which I thought was an interesting statement. And I'm not saying I have facts for this, but it seems to me right. I think Mormonism as a religion makes most atheists and agnostic members. They're not really switching to a different religion. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I think they make the most atheists and agnostic.
I think that if somebody came from evangelical or fundamentalist, that's where they go back to.
Yeah.
But if you're Mormon raised in the church, you're more than likely not to join anything.
Yes, exactly. And I had a friend from Germany who asked me once, the whole thing kind of, don't throw the baby out with the water, kind of like, she's like, why do you all, when you leave Mormonism, like throw away God and Jesus altogether? I can only speak from my experience. Once you start jumping on the train of deconstructing, it's almost a normal and natural thing to go all the way to Christianity. Why would you not only question Mormonism? Because Mormonism is just a cousin of Christianity, right? So it's just a natural thing that once you figured out, Joseph Smith made it all up, the Book of Mormon, what's with the Bible? The Bible has so many holes, it's almost like a Swiss cheese. It's definitely not a brie who's tight and closed cheese. It's more holes than cheese. So
it's feta cheese, which has lots of really tiny holes.
Yes, or that. I like that too. I never thought about feta cheese. Exactly.
Jessica, I think you hit on something about Sunday school being eliminated. That's probably why they're giving women the right to be a Sunday school president.
Exactly.
Because they know in general conference, they're going to be nixing the whole Sunday school program. So they'll be like, well, they think we gave them some crumbs, but we know what's really going to happen.
Exactly. Well, and another natural thing would be for women, I think, if you are the Sunday school president in the ward, I think it's just the natural step to say, why can I not be in stake president? Why do you think women should be for a long time satisfied doing that only on a ward level? And then they have a problem. They cannot put you in the stake or even general authority. And then you have a problem. So they have to get rid of it, right? They're just doing it for a little bit to hold them in or not. And then they have to do away because they have a way bigger problem. And that's another thing I feel in Mormonism. They're only fixing a tiny thing and don't see the ripple effect coming, which is funny, though they have a living prophet that don't see the ripple effect coming. But here we are.
Well, the church could lose half its membership and still not need tithing for 30 years.
Money is not the issue, yes.
Money's not the issue. They have enough money to last 30 years or so.
But Scientology is the same. But what do you do with money if you don't have members? I think members are still more worth to the church than the money, because they cannot do it with the money. It's not private money. They cannot take it out of the account. So then it's just a big pile of money on some accounts if you don't have member or buildings to put it in, right?
Correct.
Hi, Chuck.
Good evening to you all. I'm just hello everyone. Hello viewing audience. Yeah, I'm just chiming in what you all were just talking about, and talking about women in the church. That's what keeps these doors open. Are women. My parents and I have always had this conversation through the years, and like I said, I came up in the Baptist faith and the National Baptist Convention USA when I came from. And what the congregations are run independently. How are you doing, Jay Castro? And they're run independently in the faith. It's not like you all. And but I look at some of the. I can speak from what I see. My denomination is different from, like Randy was talking about Church of God in Christ. Wonder we were the same thing. I know we're totally different. You know what? I look at Church of God in Christ really run like LDS. The way their beliefs, they had to adopt it. Bishop Charles H. Mason, the founder, had to adopt it from here, what Joseph Smith was doing, controlling women and men being in leadership, and women are not to be in leadership position, and telling them how to dress and not about the makeup. Bishop Mason had to have studied Joseph Smith and picking it up, because what happened, we couldn't be in your faith, being shunned from your faith. And it started in faiths and adopting the white supremacy way. I know you hate to be saying that, but that's what they did. They adopted those ways of control, and what Jessica was just talking about, and all you all was just talking about. Yeah, that's what happened. I think about my father was on the deacon board at the church that they used to attend, and my mother was a deaconess. And then you talk about Sunday school. I never thought about that. I learned something about you all about your Sunday school. And when I was coming up, Sunday school teachers, they were women. That's what I want to talk about.
I think Chuck has another good point. Like the whole Netflix documentary, the alpha male, or what is it, the manosphere, right? We know most of those men are joining religion again. Why? Because they're looking for submissive women, for those trad wives who are quiet and just want to be home. So that's another toxic thing that even religion should look out for. Do you want those men in your midst? Do you want to attract those kind of men?
Also predators.
That's a great question, because we've seen this, and like I said, they had to have adopted you. And what happened? Also, another thing I found out: a lot of them that start these religions, they don't have. You hear about them. They don't have any seminary training. They're just like they started some out of nowhere. Like you talk about Joseph Smith, and seems like that's what happened with these. To my Bishop Mason, what happened? I think he was Baptist at one time, and he had a falling. I think the Baptists didn't care for what he was doing. He was into Holy Ghost, and they didn't accept him. I think they kind of kicked him to the curb, and that's how he started Church of God in Christ. And that's I want to get that out there as well. And that's when all this stuff started happening with controlling the Holy Ghost and all the music and everything else. Yeah. And they have all the great music people came out of there. Many of those they left that church, left because of control over people, be it women can be in leadership positions. People who are LGBTQ were not accepted. And that's why you see people like Sylvester, the disco star Sylvester, he came from Church of God in Christ. Think about Billy Preston and many others. That's where they all came from. And they had seen those things, but they always kept held on to their music, just like the Edwin Hawkins singers. They came from Church of God in Christ. The thing about the Clarksons, they still in it, but they came from that as well. And their mother, Dr. Mattie Moss Clark, they won Grammy and all that, but they dealt with a lot of stuff from those from the men there in the church, that leadership. I didn't mean to go a long time.
I mean, that's another problem. We know patriarchy in kind of its essence is also protecting pedophiles, right? So if we don't have more diversity in leadership, and I mean, not even just women, trans, like if we cannot see from every way's point, then we have a lot of blind sides, because then we only have one person's perspective what should be a rail guard, or what is an issue, or what should be addressed. So that's another huge issue for a lot of churches. We've seen it, right?
Yeah.
Where people don't feel safe because it's only one mantra, one view from one certain aspect of one white man mostly, right? So then you exclude, even if let's pretend they had the best of intentions, everybody has blind spots. So then you exclude automatically a lot of other people's experience in life, with life, and you're not addressing it. And then people will just leave because they can't find what they actually need. And most people, I would say, who still are religious, want community, want to be understood, want to be listened to, and getting help, but for them, and not, I shouldn't give you as a man advice how it feels to be in a boy's body and how it grows up, and vice versa. Or if you trans, then I should just listen and learn. And that cannot happen if only one group is allowed to talk and preach. That's a big
you made a great point, and that's why, like I said, I'm Baptist, the Black Baptist tradition. This is what happened. That's why Southern Baptists are the way they are as well. They still have these issues even today in their summer conferences, their convention. Always these kind of issues coming up about women being in ministry, and many of them end up leaving. That's how Jimmy Carter was a part of it. And what happened, they used to do it for someone like showed up in the congregation at, I think it was church, and they told him to stay calm. That was back when he was president of the United States, and he left that church and he went into the Alliance of Baptists. That's the more progressive one. That's where women can be in ministry. Those LGBTQ can be in ministry. I know some of the ministers in that faith as well, and that's what it was all about as well. And the Southern Baptists, they still holding on to that even to this day with that kind of thing. And once upon a time, you go into those churches, a black person show up in the church, they call the cops on you to have you arrested. That type of, you sit in the back or have you arrested in these churches. That was the thing. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Wow.
And and even look in politics, right? The more diversity, and in gender and culture we have, the more thriving even literally countries are. We look at Norway, right? It's a pretty atheist and female-led country. And the most people, at least over years and years, they're always the happiest country, right? And even Germans and Brits, we had at least female presidents. And still to this day, we all love our President Merkel. She was not the most female as you would describe, right? She was very level-headed. Thatcher was the same. Now Mexico has a great female president. So if you cannot, right? If you're not capable of seeing women in leadership and see more than gender, why don't we have the best of the best? Doesn't matter the gender or your background or your culture. Why don't we want the best brains in leadership?
See, but the church has actually requested that we not use our brains. They don't want us thinking independently with the brain God gave us. No. If you have any questions, ask one of your leaders in the church. But don't use your brain.
Yes, unfortunately.
And so these women, I honestly think that men are too intimidated to allow women to have the priesthood because they know they'll be outperformed.
Or at least they're afraid of real competition. I think that's because it's more competition. If you have more people in, that's just the thing, unfortunately, right? White man is afraid of any competition.
And we
still are like, I'm not thriving. Patriarchy is not working for me. Whoa, wow. Even though everything is for you, you're still not thriving. Then maybe you shouldn't. I'm sorry. It's natural elimination, buddy.
Hey, well, I have you all here. I have this book right here. You know this guy quite well.
When Race and Religion and Sport.
You know him quite well.
Okay.
Wow.
Darren Smith.
Darren.
Yeah, I have his book. Yeah, and what she was just talking about the men run. What she was talking about. That's why I haven't allowed them to become intimidated by women. Because let's face it, there are some. I look at some of the like in the faith that some of these people that are in these faiths, these ladies that are in ministry. There are those right here in Monroe. There's a lady I know. She's about to run for. She's running for a district judge. She's in ministry, and she's been an attorney for years, and she's going to run for one of the district judge seats here in Monroe, Louisiana. And by the way, you were talking about LDS, the high school I graduated from here in Monroe, Louisiana, St. Frederick Catholic High School. LDS Church is right down the street from my school. It's within walking. I can walk down the street to that church, and it's up in North Monroe.
I mean, to your point, because you just mentioned sports, wasn't the Boston Marathon one of the icon where a female had to fight to just run a marathon, and how men were just grabbing her? And I mean, like, if you think women are slower than you in general, right? Which men think they're always stronger in sports, then why are you afraid of a losing competition? And yet they were fighting nails to have a woman run a marathon. And that's not, unfortunately, too long ago.
Not that long ago.
Yeah. It was just when I was in high school that women were allowed to start using their own credit cards.
Yeah, same thing.
It was not legal for women to have a credit card.
Yes,
boy,
exactly. Same thing.
Just buying a house.
Yes.
Buying a house, those type
Being
things.
independent, right? I mean, really, that's what it boils down to, was just not possible.
That's true.
I just looked up just for interest. So in politics in Norway, there are 45% seats are female. That's a crazy number. And another thing too, speaking of, Randy, you said that religion or Mormonism doesn't want you to think. So Norway started a program a couple of years ago, and I'm fascinated by the whole education system and school program anyways. They're normally like the gold star, but they're teaching elementary school kids critical thinking skills. I mean, that's one big enemy of religion right there. And then look over to Japan. They make it a law that you cannot teach your children until they're 18 about religion. So they're saying your brain should be developed, and then you make your own choices. I wonder how many religions survived that, if that would have been a worldwide rule. Just interesting things about different countries.
Right.
Boy, this is interesting. You hear things every minute. Here we are in 2026, still having these type discussions. Right. Yeah, and the gentleman here, Tim, was just talking about things from the 1800s. You know what, brother, we're still living in these times. The thinking is still there. It never went away. And
exactly.
I was listening to you. Yes.
Well, and it's like, and the also the interesting point is, why are countries doing this, right? They actually, and I think there's an African country where the president said, now, if you want to be a religion in my country, you need to have a certain degree in education, because Mormons winging it all the way until we don't study theology, we don't have any preachers. So we would have a really weak stand in that country. But why the countries are doing it is so fascinating, because they want to protect their own people from religion who take advantage of their citizens. And that means money, right? Same with the Mormon church. You can't even go in the temple if you don't pay your tithing. So countries are becoming more and more aware how much dead money is in churches and how many members feel so pressured, right? I mean, even Mormons, it's like, well, I should pay tithing even if I don't have money. And yet our church has the most money of them all. So
$1 billion strong religion you all have. Yeah, your former faith has, yes.
Just fascinated that more and more countries are coming more from a place of protection and saying, hey, we need this money in our communities. You cannot take the money out, especially the Mormonism, since we're so centralized in Utah. We're taking money out of countries, and countries, Australia, we knew was in the press, right, is saying, stop. We need the money in our countries. You cannot take Canada too. We're saying, why are you so much money goes into BYU, and we have hardly any Canadians to go to BYU? So
the Lord does not need your money.
Yes, that's what they say.
That's David Bednar. I know who he is. I'm not LDS, but I know him. He's the youngest. He's the youngster of that group, man, because he's in 70s. Yeah.
And yet in the SEC,
in the 90s and 100s.
Yeah.
Russell Nelson lived to be 101 years old. and Dallas is 93. Yeah.
But didn't they claim in the SEC, when they got filed by the SEC, didn't the first presidency claim that Jesus needs money for the second coming?
Yes,
so the church needs money, so it's a lie.
Yeah.
Apparently, the second time around, Jesus needs the pockets full of money. He were able to do miracles and give 5,000 people bread and fish from just 5 fish. But the second time around, those miracles are kind of hard to come by. So we need some cash, you know?
Yes.
Apparently, the charge is $1 trillion because
Yep.
the church projects, or I should say, Widows Might projects that the church will have by 2040 $1 trillion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What in the hell can an organization accomplish with $1 trillion? And nobody better tell me, because they'd feed the kids and and
No, the
care for his sheep. No, they haven't done it yet.
We see it in America, right? Who are
They're
the
gonna-
biggest parasites? It's the billionaires. It's the same with the
Right.
churches. They are killing us. They making our lives more costly, and we should sacrifice, right? Why are the middle class or even under? Why are you go to Starbucks? Why do you have a yacht? Like,
Yeah.
they're the real bitches. It's the people with tons of money, and the same thing is with religion. It's there.
If a destitute family is faced with the decision of paying their tithing or eating, they should pay their tithing.
Okay,
don't need
that's
to eat.
not me playing those videos. I think that's our brother Gene that's interrupting what you're saying with videos.
It's a
That
spirit.
dollar notes.
Good. No.
I'm just trying to echo what Jessica's saying, using church leaders.
Oh, yeah, I recognize those faces. Like I said, I'm not a member, but I've seen them many times. You know, I found out that you all don't have any seminary training. When he was living, what's his name, Boyd Packer, he was saying that talking about how they do it within. They don't go to somebody don't go to seminary and all that. I started listening to us. Okay.
Well,
Tim,
even our
who were the three
seminary-
enemies of the church? Intellectuals,
gays,
and
And
cat
women.
owners.
females, feminists.
feminists. Yeah, cat owners. That's right. Cat
Intellectuals,
owners.
gays, and what was the other one?
Feminists.
Feminists.
You know, when I first started hearing that word feminist, when I was in high school, when I was senior in high school during the time, because that was back when he's passed on. He was horrible. He was horrible. If you know what he was while he was on this side was Rush Limbaugh. He used that word so much on his radio show. He was horrible with that kind of stuff.
Yep.
That's how I started paying attention to him when I was in high school.
Yeah, luckily I had a really liberal dad. So my dad, when I was turned 18, you know what advice he gave me first time voting? He said, Jesse, make sure you vote for a female. You want representatives.
That's cool.
Wow.
That was
That's
very cool. And I did that. He didn't told me any names or parties. He was just like, if you vote, make sure you vote a female who can represent you. And I thought that was actually for a Mormon man, but he was way too liberal all the time anyways. Very good advice. Very feminist.
I want to play the devil's advocate here for just a
Okay, go
second.
ahead, Randy.
So, Jessica, let's say that there's a woman running and a man running, and the woman she's not voting for the topics that you're interested in. As a matter of fact, she's voting opposite, but the man that's running goes right along lines with your principles. Who would you vote for?
Well, obviously, for if a woman spruce toxic stuff, I mean, that's again has nothing to do with gender. It has something to do with what you stand for. Obviously, that's not it. Yeah. But in Germany, we have multiple parties. So for me, it wasn't just voting between two people.
Right. You had multiple women you could choose from.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm just saying that I don't think anyone should vote based simply on being a woman or being a man. Vote for the one that's the most qualified.
I think it was more to the point.
I say that the whole time. I agree with you, Randy, because I'm black, and that is that just because somebody's black doesn't mean I'm gonna vote for that person because just because they're the same race I am. Because there's some people within the race that I don't fool with, and as it goes like women or whatever, there's your religion, or somebody that you grew up with. You don't vote along those lines.
No, but I think it was more to the point of how to become like equal representative across the line if we all still, unfortunately, are indoctrinated in patriarchal thinking, right? Like we listen more to men. So I think that was more my dad saying like, hey, make sure you find a woman that kind of represents you. Doesn't mean no matter what, and doesn't mean how toxic or bad she is, obviously. I think that's kind of more like logical thinking right there. But I still thought it was a good advice for everybody. Find somebody who represents your ideas. And I think, again, women are better in understanding other women's and men. I shouldn't give you as a man advice what I think men go through life, because I don't, and vice versa. But the tendency,
it goes both ways.
yes, in patriarchal societies, and unfortunately even the Western world is pretty still deep in patriarchal ideas, is that we listen more to men. And to break that cycle is becoming more representatives in every sort of life and representation.
Correct,
Yeah.
Mundo.
Definitely always use your brain, right?
Hey, you all talk about your temples and all. Did that all come out of that? Did that come out of Freemasonry? Because I know Joseph Smith was a Freemason, and that's where all that came from, with the secrecy and all that types.
Yes.
I'm just going to
100%.
say this.
The handshakes we do are
Freemasonry
amazing.
under Mormonism has become.
Yeah, my grandfather was a Mason. I was just asking, secrecy, and I was wonder. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like
It's
Mormons
it's
like
almost-
to say, it's not secret, it's sacred, but it's bullshit.
Yeah, it's secret.
It's not secret, it's
It's
sacred.
almost, Chuck,
Yeah.
it's almost verbatim, word for word, what the
Yeah.
Mason
Yeah.
ceremony is. Joseph just brought it over and implemented it
He
into his
implemented it.
new church. Yeah.
And I honestly think it serves Mormons that it's secret in a way, because it's so weird that we do in the temple. You're almost relieved you're not allowed to talk about it.
Yeah. Just like fraternities and sororities and all that, and my mother's in a sorority, and they have their secrecy and all that, these type things, and
That's fascinating,
they
because I
adopted it from
recently
that.
read an article about how even sororities are a patriarchal idea. It's being quiet about abuse, right? Because sorority, if you want to become a member, normally you need to do like shitty things or even abusive things.
Yeah.
And you swear secrecy so that they know you're loyal. So it's a very toxic idea, actually, the whole university sorority things.
And there's been some deaths in that too. Yeah.
That's
Same
right.
idea.
The Bible says that secret societies are bad.
Book of Mormon too, no?
The Book of Mormon, right?
Yes,
Secret
exactly. And yet
combinations.
we do it.
Deaths and injuries. Yeah.
And I'm going to say, the Mormon atheist, you go to his channel and you find out a lot about the origins of the temple ceremonies and Mormonism in general. And the Mormon atheist has a lot of good stuff over there. So head on over and get more info.
Good, lots of information now out there.
Yeah.
Thanks to Google.
Yeah, Joseph Smith borrowed lots of stuff from everybody.
I could tell with those big old temples and all that. I see those temples. It's a beautiful structure, but I said, boy, what's going on there?
But
Yeah.
isn't that there are so many movies, which I find now fascinating, when people start lying, they start a story where they involve things they see, right? Because then it's easier to tell the story. And that's literally what Joseph Smith did. He took stuff he saw and made it his own twist, tweaking a little here and there, and then claiming it his own, or, God, whatever. But it's so simple. I feel like once you see this in other places, that's what liars and con artists do. You see it in Mormonism everywhere. It's like boring stuff, making a little tweak to make it a little more personalized, and then claiming it. But there's not much originality to it in Mormonism, really. Like, most of the stuff is not original in anything. It's just used and a little twerk to it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite interesting. Just when just hearing you talking about all this, how all this started, and did he, if I stand correctly, did he have this dream of this angel Moroni, that gold angel you have it on your temples, that with the horn?
Yes.
I don't see crosses.
Which was funny.
No crosses.
No. Apparently nowadays more Mormons do crosses, but it was a big no-no definitely decades ago. But the whole Moroni story is also a funny one, because theoretically he is a Native American, right? But yet it's a white Jack guy in all Mormon literature.
Yeah. Oh, because he was a white. He
figure.
was a Nephite. They were white.
Exactly.
Remember?
I heard about Nephi. Yeah, explain that one too. I've seen it in that Book of Mormon about your Nephi. It's kind of like, in your Bibles you have your Genesis and Exodus and all these in the Holy Bible, and I see the Nephi and Alma and all that in there. So okay.
The Holy Bible is a good name for it since it's full of holes, according to Jessica.
Swiss cheese. Well, if you think about it, Moroni literally is Mormonism's golden boy.
That's macaroni to you.
The golden child,
The
right?
golden child.
Yeah, I think Eddie Murphy is going to play him in a movie.
Oh, the Golden Child. I remember that movie when it came out with Eddie Murphy. Yeah.
Yes. He's Joseph's scapegoat.
Well, hey guys, we're quickly approaching 2 hours.
Okay.
So it's probably about time that
I have a steak
Yeah,
dinner that I
I'm
have
get
to
all
get.
off of here as well. Like I said, my mother learned a lot. She was an independent. She's still, both my parents still living, but she used to go to Bible study. She learned some things that they never taught her, and they had a women's Bible study group that she used to go to here in Monroe, Louisiana. Yeah, I'm gonna end on that one.
Wow.
Yeah,
Nice. Jane, you said that you have a steak dinner to go to, or
right.
a dinner at the steak center.
A religious. It's going to be a religious experience for me. I'll tell you.
It's always interesting having you all in the room with these discussions. You all bring a lot of light to things because things are so crazy now. It's always great conversing with you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
Well, we love it when you come on, Chuck.
Yeah, we do.
And
we do.
On Sundays, I'm resting, getting ready for the work week, and it's always great talking to you all. I was just here watching ball games, watching the women and women's basketball tournaments. I said, I'm gonna come on here. They're on. I said, give me a break from it. Yeah, March Madness. So I've been watching because I know coaches, I know players, and I know some of the coaches of these various schools and all.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
and
awesome.
he's been watching. But I'm
Like
well versed.
Chuck,
That's my son's new religion is March Madness.
Here's what I really like about Chuck. He talks about things in the 60s and 70s almost like he's as old as Tim Rathbone.
And I was born in 1975. I'll be 51 in November.
Chuck knows his history. That's what I'll have to say.
You have great genes. And I don't mean Gene Judson.
So we'll say thanks everybody for watching.
You all take care. I'm getting on off of here. You all have a great week. All right. And thanks to everyone out there.
Thank you for coming on.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
And it's good that our sound is better this week than last week. Chuck was echoey last week, and that just happened.
Are we still live?
Thanks everybody for watching.
Live.
Share, like, and subscribe. Randy, do you have any parting words?
Love y'all. Thank you for being here every week. Bring your friends next time and share it with them as well.
And women, don't settle for breadcrumbs.
That was so generic.
But the more breadcrumbs you have, the more you can have. What's that chicken wrapped around with ham and Swiss cheese?
Oh, cordon bleu?
Chicken cordon bleu.
Oh.
So.
Well, take another decade to get a cordon bleu out of those crumbs.
Lemonade out of lemons or something like that. But anyway,
right.
We'll see how many crumbs come in the next few years. All right. Thanks, everybody. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.